Hey, how are you? I'm Allison Davis, and do you get good sleep? A huge question. Do you wake up in the middle of the night and then have a hard time going back to sleep? Do you have a hard time going to sleep in the first place? Like, is your mind racing and it's hard to calm down? I'm going to tell you some great things to do, but first I'm going to tell you a little bit about sleep and some statistics that are pretty incredible. 50 to 70 million US adults have a sleep disorder. Sounds like a lot. Listen to this. 38% report unintentionally falling asleep during the day at least once in the preceding month. Hi, Wendy. In 1942, this is how our modern world's changing. In 1942, Americans had 7.9 hours on average per night of sleep, compared to in 2013, 6.8 hours. It's a 13% decrease. Modern world moving fast, I think so. Almost 20% of all car crash accidents are associated with sleepiness. Hi, Bob. Let's see where I read something else. I did some research, guys, on this from several different articles. Stay at the end and I can send you something if you're interested in it. Hey, Kurt. 9 million, this is amazing. 9 million Americans take prescription drugs to help them fall asleep. Ouch. The frequency of sleep medicine used is associated with a higher mortality rate. China is the most sleep medicated country in the world. What's up with that? Hey, Gina. And those using sleeping pills have a 35% higher chance of developing cancer. There is another way. So let's talk about it. Okay, some of this stuff, I love Dr. Mercola, so that's one of the sources. I have like 4. But let me just tell you a few things that I got from him. Hey, Teresa. Let's see. Sleep is such a crucial component for a healthy lifestyle. It is the number one thing. When we talk about healing from something, or, just kids getting sick, or whoever, the number one thing I always say is go to bed. Go to sleep. Sleep as long as you can. Just sleep, because that is the number one thing to heal from something. Number one, beyond anything else. It affects everything from mood to creativity to brain detoxification to DNA expression, chronic disease risk, including dementia. It affects longevity. So listen to this. This is really interesting. One of the most radical and recent discoveries revealing the importance of sleep for health in each and every organ, in every cell. Every cell has its own biological clock. And the 2017 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine was awarded for the discovery of those cellular clocks, all of which work in tandem to control and maintain biological homeostasis, regulating everything from metabolism to physiological functioning. So there's all these teeny tiny little cells that are all working in tandem in our body. And we just discovered that. And in your brain is the master clock that synchronizes all these clocks to match the 24-hour light-dark cycle. So that's what everything's based on. Very God, isn't it? So when you upset that circadian rhythm by not getting enough sleep, then all kinds of bad things happen. Raised blood pressure, blood sugar, inflammation, immune system depresses, diabetes, cancer risk. Hey, Jan. Stress, and a ton more. So this is interesting. This was part of what I was telling you earlier. In 2013, drowsy drivers caused 72,000 car accidents. That was more than accidents from texting and drunk drivers combined, just drowsiness. And another really interesting thing, so I follow a lady named Chalene Johnson. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's 51. She's very well known in the fitness industry, but she's also a big business person, entrepreneur. And I've followed her for probably 5 years. I've actually been to a few of her conferences in Los Angeles. And she, in fact, has the Guinness Book of World Records for the most fitness videos ever made. I follow her for the business stuff, but she has, been a great influence in the health world. So she's really healthy and always has been. Well, a couple years ago, for some reason, she went to see Dr. Daniel Amen, Amen. Look his TED Talk up. He is a brain expert. He's fascinating. I've heard him lecture. She actually had him lecture at one of her conferences. And so she went to him and had her brain scanned. He has clinics in like 3 major cities. And she's thinking, oh, my brain's going to look great because I'm so healthy and everything, nutrition and exercise and everything. And they come out and they're like, we have some bad news. And she's just like, well, what? They said, do you do drugs? And she's just like, no, I don't do drugs. Are you kidding me? They said, you have the brain of either a heroin addict or a POW who's been sleep deprived. And well, for the previous 20 years, she basically had been living on, I'd say probably 4 to 6 hours of sleep a night. And she just thought, well, that's just the way my body's built. I'm just okay with having 4 to 6 hours of sleep. She's kind of a workaholic. She'll admit that. And so they basically said, you have to sleep or you're gonna go downhill fast. And so she spent the next couple of years really focusing on sleep, doing all the things she could to get to sleep early, to stay in bed, to sleep at least 7 to 8 hours. And a couple of years later, she went back and they could see the holes on these scans. They could see these holes in her brain where that damage was showing up. And they went back and did it again, and those holes had healed up. So, the body heals. We know the body heals. We see it heal with cuts and bruises, and that's on a small scale, but it heals on a big scale too if we do the things to create the environment to get it to heal, right? Anyway, let's see. So this whole light and dark thing is huge, and that's what we need. One main thing we need to understand. Most people in our Western society spend the large portion of their day indoors, which basically is going to have, you're going to have a light deficiency if that is what you're doing by 2 times. The indoor light is much less intense than the outdoor light. So to maintain a healthy master clock timing in your body, you've got to get enough bright light exposure during the day. And so just the indoor exposure is just not bright enough to anchor that circadian rhythm. So it wouldn't take much. 30 to 60 minutes of outdoor light exposure during the morning or midday would give you about 80% of that circadian rhythm anchoring. So, 30 minutes at lunch, you could go outside. Now, of course, that's hard when the weather's not good, but, you do what you can do. So, on the opposite side of that is what's going on at night. So you need to avoid bright light, artificial light after sunset, and because it impairs your melatonin production. So somewhere between 50 and 1,000 lux is the activation range within which light will begin to suppress melatonin production. Okay, so that's not a lot. Listen to this. In 2011, there was a study that compared daily melatonin profiles of individuals living in room light, which is less than 200 lux, versus dim light, which is less than 3 lux. And the results showed, compared with dim light, the exposure to that regular room light before bedtime suppressed melatonin 99% in 99% of the individuals. And then it shortened that time by 90 minutes of melatonin production. So that's not good. Let's see. Furthermore, exposure to room light during the usual hours of sleep, like in your bedroom, some room light suppress the melatonin production by 50%. Okay, so after sunset, dim the lights. Use incandescent bulbs, not LEDs, not fluorescents. The red and amber wavelengths will interfere less with melatonin production, and the blue and green, like the phone, like the computer, are going to interfere the most. So that is kind of like some basic baseline information on sleep that's just huge, you know. In our modern society, we're not, I mean, 100 years ago they were doing that, or 200 years ago, you know. I think about my favorite HBO series is John Adams, and you know how they've got candlelight. When the sun goes down, they've got candlelight. Like, that was thousands of years. We're just living in this little tiny amount of, 100 years, 100 years really, of, this modern society where it's messing with us. And so if we don't do these things, and then we think we have diseases that we got to go get, prescriptions for, whatever. And so, but there's things we can do in just our lifestyle that can change all that. Hi, Kay, Terry, Michael, how are you guys? So I have 28 tips for better sleep right here. I'm going to just read off a couple real quick, and if you want the rest, I will send it to you. Just give me a comment, and I'll send it to you through Messenger. Stop using all technology 1 hour before bed. I mean, at least. No caffeine after 3 p.m. That's just going to excite the body. And where is that spot? Where is that sweet spot of where if you drink coffee, where you can't have caffeine, or start to be aware of where is that sweet spot. No sugar after 4 p.m. Same thing, just raises up, excites our body when we're wanting to kind of tone down. Sleep just 1 hour longer during the weekend than your latest weekday wake-up time, so that you keep that routine, right? That's something I have to work on. And then just one more, sleep in complete darkness as much as possible. That may mean that you have to get blackout curtains. If you have something that's got a little red light or a little green light on it, like a alarm system or a clock or I've got one of those plug-in things that's got a red light on it, put a piece of duct tape over it or throw a pillow on it or something. All those little bits of light, you need to just black it out so that melatonin is really producing, all right? I'm going to let you go because I don't want this to be any longer than it already is. But like I said, reach out to me if you want that list. And I will talk to you guys later. Great hanging with you. Bye.